Hi, I'm Ross Payne and welcome to the Valley Preview. This Friday night it's the MVCC Mayoral Charity Night with race 1 kicking off at 6:45 p.m. Let's go to Marty Sider now with the latest track update. Now his tip last week was backed off the map 360 into 210, taught teen, and surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, it rolled over. Marty, please explain.
Ross, it did run third. It was a big run behind a loping there, but yeah, once again, I've let the punters down, and my tip this week probably reflects that. I've tipped a horse called Distraught, race 2, number 2, so hopefully he can get up. Punters will be happy with me this week.
Fingers crossed, mate. I'm not sure I trust you, but hopefully punters will forgive you. Now, the forecast for Friday is partly cloudy, but come race night, it looks like it will be clear. Tell us about the conditions of the track.
Yeah, track's pulled up well after last week's meeting. We've just moved the rail out to 7. We generally do for this meeting because we try and save that inside section for Cox Plate and Manikato. So we moved out 7. Beautiful cover of grass. I didn't get that wide last week. Track will be a dead 4. Hopefully we'll get an upgrade if the weather's on our side. We'll get a bit of wind up, but we had 2.5 mil of rain on Wednesday after that storm. So we also put on a bit of irrigation as well, another 4.5 mil. So it's had plenty of water. It's got plenty of moisture in it. Great cover of grass, and yeah, looking forward to a great night's racing.
And now Nick Heathcote joins us to discuss the gallops at Werribee on Wednesday. Hello to you, Nick.
Thanks, Ross. Without gallops at Moonee Valley this week, we decided to go down and watch Guest of Honour perform his work in preparation for the Sporting Bet Cox Plate. I spoke to travelling head foreman Paul Francis to discuss any concerns over the 2,000 metre trip and if he could run it out.
He's more or less a miler. He's never really got a mile and a quarter, but we just think maybe a couple of years older now. He's a bit stronger, and obviously the tighter track and sharper track, he's got every chance of getting it.
And I guess he's only started over 2,000 metres in the Group 1 Arlington Millions as a 3-year-old. Did Marco Body report any excuses for him that day, or was it just an immaturity thing, or how do you see it?
I think more immaturity, and his first time abroad. You never know how they're going to take to it first time, but I just think 2 years older now, he seems a lot more mature, and he's took the trip very well.
He galloped this morning 10 days away from his first up run in the Toorak. How was the work this morning?
Well, he's just done a nice canter, really, just stretched his legs a little bit, and nothing too strenuous because, like I say, it's only sort of 4 days since they've been here, so it's just a matter of ticking over. We'll do a lot more tomorrow.
I also caught up with Darren Dance to talk about his involvement with Guest of Honour.
We only bought Guest of Honour in July. He first came on our radar earlier in the year, probably around May, and I had a look at him in the UK when we were over there for Royal Ascot. Lovely horse, tremendous individual, just big, strong horse, just my sort of horse, very progressive. Unfortunately, back in June, he wasn't qualified for anything, so we said to the agent that, we'd love to buy the horse, but he needs to be qualified or at least win some sort of Group 1 or Group 2 race over there before we bought him. And luckily enough, at his next start out, he did come out and win a Group 2, and that got him, ticked a couple of boxes for us, and it allowed us then to negotiate and buy the horse to bring to Australia.
Sure, and he looks like he's settled in pretty well?
Look, he's travelled fantastic. Of all the horses that Marco brought out, he travelled the best. In fact, he lost no weight, which is very unusual. Most horses would lose 8 to 10 kilos on the trip, but he didn't lose 1 kilo at all. He got off the plane, he walked around like he'd been here for a week, and that night he licked his bin out and his temperature was normal, so you just couldn't ask for anything more. And even looking at him this morning walking around before he did his work, he walked around that sand track like he'd been here for 100 days.
Yeah, and as you said, his last start, winner of the Group 2 Summer Mile at Ascot. How do you think that form measures up in the Cox Plate?
Well, it's hard to know. I mean, obviously he beat Mull of Caloff, who we've seen out here, and, I guess what really got us a little bit excited was he beat Long John, who had won the Caulfield Guineas. So, that form's very good. He's a progressive horse. He loves firm ground, and he races up on the speed. So, being a miler, an improving type, we think he'll run really well in the Toorak, and hopefully, he'll run well in the Cox Plate.
Lee Jordan was also on hand to discuss the Aidan O'Brien train to Adelaide, who was targeted for the Sporting Bet Cox Plate.
Yeah, he arrives in the second shipment that goes into vintage crop on October the 11th. So there's 8 horses that arrive. Yeah, look, he was super impressive when he won the Group 1 Secretariat Stakes in the US. He drifted off the track a little bit, but look, I think his last start when he ran in the Prix Newell in France, which is like the lead into the Arc for 3-year-olds, he got caught in a bit of traffic in the straight. Didn't have a good weekend, the O'Brien camp, with rides, and Ryan just got a bit caught, but geez, he steamed home, and the winner, Ektot, is one of the favourites for the Arc. So, look, that was super impressive. So I think if he can bring that sort of form here, he is a really big chance, and at the moment he'd be my pick.
And in terms of the pre-Neil form and the Secretariat form, how does that sort of stack up to other international form?
Oh, I think the pre-Neil is, as I said, well known as the lead into the Arc. Top quality. The winner's one of the favourites for the Arc itself. If you watch the race, he was super. He was just eating up the ground down the outside. I know some people said maybe a bit of an unusual prep, running over 2400 coming into the Cox Plate, but look, he won't have another run until the Cox Plate, so I'm sure Aidan will have him spot on for this race.
No worries. And in terms of a quarantine period, is 2 weeks too short, and is it a last throw at the stumps, or can he win a Cox Plate off a 2-week entry into Australia?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think it's just all different preferences. Aidan in the past, and I know he hasn't been here for 6 years, prefers to come as close as he can to the race, and he sort of does that overseas as well. So look, other trainers prefer to be out here a bit longer. It's personal preference. So I wouldn't read anything into that he hasn't come on the first ship.
Now, we are hearing that Hong Kong galloper Dan XL has a setback and could miss the Sporting Bet Cox Plate. To bring us up to speed, Nick, what do you got for us?
He's had a virus, so I asked Lee Jordan for an update.
Yeah, look, I spoke to John Moore just before. They're obviously monitoring him. He's been doing light work at Caulfield. I think probably in the next 2 or 3 days are probably going to tell the tale. He's still positive. Ben Mason, who's the vet, was a vet based in Hong Kong with the Hong Kong Jockey Club, so he's got a lot of confidence in Ben. But yeah, the next few days are going to tell the tale. It's just unfortunate he's picked up something up in Sydney. We just have to wait and see, but hopefully he can get back to some of his form. He really has got the form. I mean, his win the Singapore Gold Cup was excellent, and if he can bring that to the table, he's going to be right in the race. But obviously you've got to have a bit of a question mark with this little bit of a setback.
And now looking to Friday night's card. Nick, tell us who we should look out for.
In race 3, the SKM Recycling Handicap over 1,500 metres. Number 6 is Fortiche. She's a half-sister to Micmac, a filly taking on the boys. If she can overcome Barrier 9, I think she can really win the race.
And members, don't forget the relaxed dress code on Friday nights, with your jacket and tie being optional. And tickets are still available for the Copperberg Experience on Cox Plate Day. See our website for further information, www.thevalley.com.au. We'll look forward to seeing you Friday night at the Valley.